Hello. I don't know. I don't have anything.
Hello. Welcome back to the Tis It Is podcast. That over there is my Halu friend, Mr. Treads. Back in the hat, in case you were wondering. I am
back in the hat.
His not.
You can take the
man
out of the hat, but you can't take the hat out of the man. I don't know.
He has fun with his hats. And I...
Halloo.
This is insane. We're having a stroke. Somebody listening to this, if they're just listening to this and they're trying to keep up, nobody's going to know what's going on. All right, let's lock in.
It's been a long week.
Has it been? How are you doing? Unload on all of our listeners. How you been?
I will spare our listeners from unloading on the tedious life that I live day to day, Monday through Friday.
My God.
What is that?
You're scaring me. That sounds terrible.
It's not that bad. I'm just saying it's just, regular. Everyone lives it. I feel like I don't have anything all that more exciting than anyone's job. So, I don't know. I don't have anything crazy. It's been a long week of work.
I can't hear you. My headphones just disconnected. They just straight up disconnected.
Oh, got to start over. We're going to have to scrap all that great content we have.
You can be saying whatever you want to right now. What is happening? That didn't work. Yeah, I'd say so. Computer literally says, that didn't work.
Thanks.
Say something now.
Can you hear me now?
You said You're connected!
Liars. Well, thanks for joining us this week.
I can't.
And that's all we have.
I'm going to lose my mind. They're not even showing up. Like when I go to my sound settings. You said you were connected!
Known liar.
Now I hear you. My God.
There we go.
Half of that's going to stay in because I'm sure you were saying something stupid the entire time.
I didn't say anything.
Oh my God.
We back?
We're back. Go ahead and say something. Anything.
Well, I'm happy you are back with us on this side of the living. You sound like down. You are concerning me as a friend. Like I'm like, what is wrong with bro? I apologize. I'm not down. We need to raise up, apparently.
We need to raise, baby, you're gonna make me raise up.
No, I'm good. I'm happy to be here with you. Happy to be here in the hat. And I'm happy to be here what are we talking about?
Dude, we are talking about one of my favorite just concepts in general. I think you're pretty big on it too. We're just going to talk about some villains today. We got a specific genre of villains we're going to be talking about. We're going to finally what's the word? We're going to finally pop our DC cherry.
Ooh.
And because I think we've both said before that we like DC overall better than Marvel. No? You agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so tonight what we're going to be talking about is our little Mount Rushmores of DC villains. Right before we recorded, I said, we joked that one time that we're going to have a Buttmore every time we have a Rushmore, and I didn't think of one. And I think, I couldn't hear you. Did you say, I think I could come up with one? Or did you say, yeah, if I had time, I could have? How did you answer that?
I think it's probably the latter. I feel like there definitely are villains that come up in stories that I'm not interested, not feeling this character. So I feel like with time I could definitely come up with a Buttmore, but in typical Treads fashion, I did not think that much ahead to create one today. But we might find them along the way as we go. If we think of a Buttmore candidate, I'll be sure to shout them out. But Buttmores are they're unpredictable. They spring up when you maybe least expect them. So It's fine that they're unplanned.
What is that guy's name? I think he's DC. His name is Mr. something, and it's when you say his name, he becomes
Mr. Freeze.
I know. I love that. You say oh yeah, and you say something that has nothing to do with what's going on. I love that so much. You know what I'm talking about though? His name's it's Mr. PXY.
It's
I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yes. Yeah, I don't really know much about him, honestly.
I think he's kind of a god once he's activated, and like you have to say his name backwards you have to get him to say his name backwards or something.
It's like some
Right?
Rumpelstiltskin match, something. I don't know what. I'm not sure, but yeah, he's out there. I don't know if he's a Butmore candidate for me. I don't really know too much about him. I feel bad,
Right. I have
giving that level of shade to him.
I have one that potentially at the end I might just slide into my Rushmore that I had never heard of until this year. You might already know who I'm talking about.
I already know it.
Just because I randomly love that character so much, he's at least going to be on my honorable mention. But he honestly might be on there because I freaking love that concept.
I'm excited. That would be a little absurd, I'm going to be honest.
I think it would be.
He's on your Rushmore for...
Dude, it's just,
we'll get there. There.
It's great. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
It is great.
We're going to give our Mount Rushmores, and I guess to continue the controversial talk, I'll be honest with you, there's some characters on my Mount Rushmore you're not going to see. You're not going to see this guy. He's not going to be on there. I'm sorry. I think Joker is... He is. I think Joker is like... would be on the Mount Rushmore of like every villain ever created. Mm-hmm. I think Joker would be.
Yeah.
So it's not because he doesn't belong there that he won't be on mine. It's just because if you think of villains, yes, he's going to be on there. So I want to give love to some other characters. I don't want one of my 4 spots taken up by a guy who's like the villain, probably.
I respect that. I'm kind of surprised from you because I know you are just a fan of Big Joker. Fan. But no, I respect that, and I honestly, spoiler alert, he won't be on mine either for kind of similar reasons. He just the Joker, like you kind of said, kind of goes beyond anything. He's the villain when you think about a comic book villain.
Right.
So I think it's kind of fun these are definitely going to be like personal lists. I will not claim that my 4 are going to be should be topping the 4 greatest villains list necessarily. They're just my personal favorites. So I think that's a good kind of route to take and maybe show some love to a few that maybe aren't topping every other list. So yeah, I think that'll be good. And I think with kind of focusing on DC as opposed to Marvel or anything else, I think is a good opportunity for us to talk a little bit about what makes DC so good in our eyes. Because we're fans of both Marvel and DC, obviously. Big fans of the MCU, at least up to a certain point. And both we both love the DC movies maybe more than the average viewer. But we can talk about that in, some other time, some other episode. But we will probably touch on both of these companies a lot in future episodes as well. But the villains specifically, I think, is one of the areas where DC just really outshines Marvel overall.
Yep.
Marvel definitely has their share of a few strong ones, but I don't even really think it's that close when you start comparing tit for tat.
Tit for tit.
These villains. So I think it'll be kind of fun to focus in on our preferred brand and kind of see which ones jump out the most to us.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think we're going to see some disparity between our Mount Rushmores. I'm sure there's at least 2 that'll probably be. If it's not on yours, you'll be like, yeah, it's great, whatever.
Yeah, I have a couple that I literally, if you get it, if you talk about one, I literally might pivot to someone else just so we can have different conversations. We'll see.
But will that character stay
I refuse to share a character with you.
Not my Mount Rushmore.
Butmore over here. We're not creating a Mount Butmore, but I'm confident that Scott will be.
Yeah. That reminds me, do you remember when that thing was going around on Twitter 2 years ago? It was the blank state map. And people said for every state you fill in, you get $1 million. But if you get one wrong, you lose everything. And I put at most 30 states.
Yeah.
And I was like... my brother especially was like, you don't know all the states. I was like, I'm not risking it. I'm not going to guess between Vermont and New Hampshire and get one of them wrong, and then there goes all 50 million or whatever. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I sent that, and then you and him were making fun of me for only knowing 30. And then he said, wait, send me the original. I took a screenshot of yours like an idiot. And you said, I'll start by assuming I know everything that Scott does. Right, which is true.
Yeah, it was a legendary interaction between the 3 of us. I think about that one, honestly, pretty regularly. I think one of my also underrated favorite pieces of that whole thing was that you literally thought that 15 different states were New Hampshire's.
I could not figure that out.
There was one state, I think it was New Hampshire, that you were just like, for some reason your brain was locked onto, and you were putting it in Midwest, you were putting it, the East, you were putting it everywhere, man. It was great. I loved it.
I don't know. I have gotten better since then. Like I think I could do better now. The Northeast portion. Sorry, I'm not getting it.
There's a few that are hard. Like I think I could at least like tell you like these states are here, these states are here, but there are a few that I would probably mix up. Gotta be honest.
There are some that like, and I think I said this, and I think my brother again made fun of me for it. I honestly forget that like Montana is a state. I know it's freaking ginormous, but like I just forget. Like I've never heard of anything going on there. Montana? What? Is there a single professional team there? I don't think so.
Have you ever heard of Joe Montana? Hannah Montana?
Hannah Montana? Yeah, why was she Hannah Montana? They lived in California, right?
I don't know. Well, I guess they made that movie where she goes and like she's on her ranch or whatever. I don't know if that was in Montana or not.
Was that?
I don't know if there's any connection to
We're gonna fact check
the Hannah Montana movie.
Why was she called Hannah?
It's the climb.
The character was originally going to be named Alexis Texas.
Oh. The Disney executives are like, oh.
Can you imagine? They're like, Alexis Texas. Somebody's like, well, check that real quick. Make sure it's not taken. They're like, it's taken.
That's great.
But what is? I can't find out what Montana has to do with it. Maybe that's where they were from.
I mean, if it was originally going to be another girl name with a state, they probably just like, oh, what other state could we make a rhyme with a name?
Right.
I don't know.
Hannah Montana, who is Miley Cyrus, was born. What? I know Hannah Montana is actually Miley Cyrus, you idiot.
Did you know she has the best of both worlds?
But I don't. This makes no sense. No, Hannah Montana is from Tennessee, not Montana. In Hannah Montana the movie, Hannah reveals her true identity as Miley Stewart during a concert in her hometown of Crowley Corners, Tennessee.
Oh, well, there you have it.
So
who knows the connection? There is no connection. That's the point, I guess.
Yeah.
There's no connection.
We're English teacher in this, and we're trying to find something that's not there.
Speaking, not to get too far away from our manly subject tonight of DC Comics, I'm going to stick on the Disney Channel stuff for just 1 second. So, this past week, my younger sister was passing through Morgantown, dropping off my younger brother. I won't get into too many details, I guess, of all that. But she was in, and we were just like, somehow we're talking about like old Disney Channel stars. And it's incredible, honestly. Her, like, she could tell any of those people from that, especially that certain era when like she was watching, which is most of the big Disney Channel shows you can think of. She could tell you everything about their lives right now. Like, if they're married, how many kids they have, the kids' names, what they've done since they left Disney Channel. It's like spooky. Like, it's like, I mean, I can do that, not necessarily like their personal life stuff, but I can tell you a lot about like, oh, these actors have done this many movies since then, or this movies. But like the Disney Channel stars specifically feels like weird to, like, not weird, but wild. Because like most of them have just, that's what they're known for.
Yeah.
So that was pretty impressive. But in this conversation, that she was just like blowing my mind how she knew where every single person was. She pulled up this picture that is just hilarious of what's his name? Jason Earl, I think, the brother from Hannah Montana, the older brother.
Oh, Jackson. Yeah.
Yes. So in real life, I don't know if you knew this. He was like, I think he was literally like 30.
Yes.
In the show.
Uh-huh.
He was small. But there's an episode of the show that I honestly don't even really remember, but John Cena was on it, which makes sense when you think of the timelines. John Cena's probably like the biggest name in professional wrestling at the time.
Right.
So he was on an episode of Hannah Montana, and apparently, I think, I'm going to get this wrong, their birthdays are like very close, apparently, like within a week or at least in the same month or something. They're like the same age, but there's a picture of John Cena with that actor, and it literally looks like he's with his like son. It's hilarious. We will have to find it and throw that picture up on the
John Cena
on the screen,
and what did you say his name was
great.
again?
I want to say Jason Earl or something. I could be completely wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh my God.
He's like has his arm around him or something.
He's
He
in
looks
like the
so little.
scene is in the tank top. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah. Jason
He
Earls looks
so
like
little.
he looks like he's 14. That's insane.
Yeah.
I know you're correct. Like I don't doubt you at all. I just want to see exactly. John Cena birthday is April 23rd of 77.
Okay.
Jason Earls birthday.
I might be. It's like 10 years.
April
different.
26th of 77. They're like 3 days
Okay.
apart.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Whoa.
I'm glad I rememred that correctly, but I was cracking up looking at that picture. So
That is funny. Yeah, I will throw that in there. That's hilarious. 3 days apart look like father and son.
it is just weird to think about how that, like, how'd they even get that actor? Like, did he show up to audition for that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, next we have, you're 30.
Yeah.
Care to explain?
Well,
That's funny.
there are some other. I'm trying to think. There's another one that's like glaringly obvious. Like a lot of people talk about. I can't remember. I mean, obviously Tobey Maguire's one. I can't remember how old Tobey Maguire was whenever he played Spider-Man in like Spider-Man 1, supposed to be in high school. I think it was around our age, honestly.
I mean, they do that. Movies do that a lot for high schoolers. I feel like it's like someone that looks real. Like I didn't watch it, but that like Dear Evan Hansen movie. Are you familiar with that?
I don't think so. No.
It's a musical, which some of the music is admittedly pretty good. I haven't heard all of it. Haven't seen like the Broadway show or whatever, but the movie they made a few years ago. The guy, I think it might be the guy who like originated the role on Broadway, so I understand why they wanted him. But he looks like laughably bad as a high schooler. Like he looks like he's 40.
Yeah,
It's bad. So yeah, movies do that a lot though. I think it's weird. I don't know if it's just they want more established star, I'm assuming is the reasoning.
Right.
Instead of like some young upstart who had, I don't know. It just, sells more tickets if it's a name you recognize. I don't know. But it's something that always kind of irks me.
Agreed. Yeah.
Although in Hannah Montana, he pulls it off. I as a kid, I never questioned that he was as old as their dad. Like,
Right. Honestly, true. Very weird. Yeah. I don't know how to get back on track. I don't know how we just gotta jump.
Well, I'm trying to think if I can think of any connection.
Segue.
I don't think I can. With any Disney Channel star like famously also play in a DC movie.
Is Peacemaker going to end up being a villain? I don't think so. I think he's kind of a hero. So,
But he's in the DC universe.
Yeah. Speaking of John Cena.
The best segue. Yeah. He's a good friend of James Gunn. And what company is James Gunn taking over? Yeah. Goodness.
all that said, pal, if you want to go first, I'll allow you to give some love to your first pick on your Mount Rushmore. If you want me to talk first, I'll take it. Whatever. I'll let you pick.
I will defer. My friend.
Okay. Well,
Take her away.
I'm going to pick one that, if this were in order, this would be my overall pick. Again, minus Joker. I think Joker's just there. We're assuming Joker's already there. I want the ultimate life form from Krypton. I want Doomsday. I think Doomsday, for anybody who doesn't know, Doomsday is literally, he's made for one purpose, which is to kill and or like cause chaos. That's all he does. Doomsday is killable. But if you kill him, he resurrects, so he's kind of not killable. And however you killed him, you will never kill him that way again. He becomes immune to however he died. Shoot him in the chest, great, now he's bulletproof. Poison him, now he's immune to that, whatever. Whatever you do, he might die, but he's going to come back, and you cannot kill him that same way again. I think that alone is almost like perfect villain. He's unkillable. And I'm like, it's like a trope. I could see you being like, well, that's stupid. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that you literally cannot kill him. And he's just such a brute. He's literally killed Superman. How many villains have killed Superman? He has canonically killed Superman. It's insane, dude. Yep. I love Doomsday.
I love the pick, and that's literally immediately you kicked it off with the one that I was like, Scott's probably going to have this on his list, and I don't know. I very well might include him on mine because I love him that much as well, but I might, since you've included him, I think I might pivot to something different. We'll see. Mm-hmm. I love Doomsday. I think he's the ultimate, like, when it's just the way I think about all these lists. If you've watched these episodes, I try to think like in a little different, like compartmentalize my different picks a little bit to have like a representation of different things. Mm-hmm. And I think he's my favorite, just like brute strength villain. It's a perfect Superman, just like you have like your Lex Luthor that's like or Brainiac and stuff. These people that are like trying to, outsmart and they're just like super genius. But sometimes it's fun to just throw Superman in there against just brute strength and just watch this huge battle and stuff. It's fun.
Yep.
The death of Superman storyline is iconic. It's absurdly good. So no, I love the Doomsday stuff, and I agree that the way he evolves and like he can't die that same way is so simple but so like perfect. It is a perfect like power for a villain to have.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough. I probably say this about a lot of these characters, and I know neither one of us have like read a ton of the DC comics and stuff. There's stuff I've read. I know you've read some stuff too. I would love to know like how consistent that is used of him, because I think I'd love to like, I hope it is consistently used like back from when he was created, which I did write down here. 1992, which is more recent than I would have just guessed. A lot of these go back, decades before that, but 1992. So he's the newest one that I wrote down of the few that I was looking at. And I wrote down their creators, which most of them have like the writer and the artist of that comic whenever it was coming out. They're like 5 names listed, so I just wrote down Dan Jurgens et al. If I have to freaking do a scholarly citation for the creators, I'm not going to list their 5 names. So I don't know who had the most credit, but great character and great powers. Yeah, honestly, great pick. It's probably the one that I was most confident you would take, and I'm excited to see your next 3 because I don't know from there. I thought it was going to be the Joker as well, but
yeah, I love him. I agree, especially with what you said. It's just fun to give a character who is perhaps the strongest in that universe, one of the strongest, give him an evenly physical match. It's fun. It's just fun.
It is. And I know in some of these I want to talk about like different representations that we love of the characters, because there's so many things you can look at. There's even like different lines of comics, the character can be very different depending on who the person writing it is, who the artist is. And then you have obviously live action movies for some of these. You have DC especially does a lot of animated films, animated series, video games even these characters are represented well in. So it's kind of something cool to think about. And with him, I know like the Death of Superman movie, animated movie, was pretty good. I liked the way he looked and was represented there. In the live action Zack Snyder, Batman vs Superman, obviously he was in that. Not my favorite like character design for Doomsday, but it was still just kind of cool to see him represented in a movie. So yeah,
I need to check this out. Apparently, Doomsday had a Green Lantern ring at one point.
Ooh, that's fine.
I was wondering which ring, because I feel like if you dig deep enough, almost every major villain has worn a ring of some sort.
Especially now that they've kind of built up all the different cores and stuff in the past decade plus, it's kind of, they've definitely given them to a lot of people.
Surprised he wasn't Rage. I'm surprised he wasn't Red. But
it honestly wouldn't make much sense. Like sometimes it's just like that doesn't make any sense at all. Like I don't think Doomsday's gonna be a candidate for like willpower. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think Rage would be better.
Know.
But what do we know? All that to say, fam, it's now time for your first. Hopefully, a person with a head on your Mount Rushmore.
Everyone I'm going to pick tonight does have a head. I'll go ahead and put that out there first. I'm just going to start with my unquestioned number 1 favorite comic book villain ever. And that will be Deathstroke. I love this character, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty confident in saying that I think my love for him probably just goes back to the Teen Titans cartoon that I was obsessed with when I was younger. And in that show, he's literally just called Slade. Slade Wilson being his, actual name. And in the show, I think it was just that they didn't want, like, Deathstroke to be, like, the name of the main villain for, like, a kid's show.
Yeah.
I think that was it. But even I loved him as Slade even. Like, so for years I thought it was just Slade before I realized who he was. He's represented awesome there. I think Ron Perlman, the actor, he's a great voice actor, voices Slade in the Teen Titans show, and it's awesome. If you haven't watched it, just go look up like a YouTube video of just literally 1 minute of Slade talking, and his voice is just like magnetic. It's awesome. It's just an evil voice. So he's great there. I went back and I've read pretty much the entire run of Marv Wolfman and George Perez writing the new Teen Titans. It's up there. It's probably, I have two comic runs from creators that are probably always my two favorite things I've ever read, and that's one of the two. It's phenomenal. Most of it, like I think 80s was when it ran, the New Teen Titans with Wolfman and Perez. The artwork is just beautiful for those. I love that Teen Titans group, and Deathstroke being like their number one villain. And then he kind of went on and he was the kind of the villain for Dick Grayson longer than that too, which is kind of cool. And he's kind of went up against everybody. He's one of the few people who his intellect is like on par with Batman, which I think is really cool. I guess we haven't even talked about his actual, what makes him, he's basically like Captain America of the DC universe. He has the super soldier serum, which makes him smarter, faster, stronger than everybody else. He even has some like, he does have some type of like fast healing. I don't know to what degree. I think it's been kind of used differently in different iterations. But he's phenomenal. I love the different looks of him too. Like his classic costume is really good, like from that 1980s run with the New Teen Titans. But then the more like modern suits also usually look pretty cool too. He's just a mercenary, and he's, like I said, he's smarter than everyone else usually. He's awesome. I love him. I love, he's good with all kinds of weapons, and I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but yeah, he's always been my favorite, and that was the easiest one for me to just like kind of lock into my list, and then I had to like start thinking a little bit about the rest.
I think that's a great pick. He was one of my go-tos on Injustice 1, the video game. He was great. I don't know how we haven't, in all the different Batman movies we've gotten over the years, I don't know how we haven't gotten a like actual Deathstroke like fight or whatever. I think he's been kind of teased and kind of featured, kind of talked about, but not really like been a prominent villain. I don't know how. Yeah,
I guess it's just, I don't think he is like, he's not like one of the first like Batman rogues you think of when you think of Batman's rogue gallery. He's more so connected to, he's went up against Batman plenty of times. I think he should.
Scarecrow, Two-Face.
Right, we've gotten a lot.
All these people, I'm like, give me Deathstroke, dude.
It would be a different type of fight too, which I'd like. Yes. Yeah, that would be fun. We just really haven't, live action wise. I know he was in the Arrow show, which I didn't really watch a ton of. And then we got him obviously kind of teased in the DC live action universe stuff, but again, it kind of fizzled out before he became much of anything too. So it's kind of the story of a lot of these characters for me. We might get a glimpse of them live action, but then it doesn't really turn into anything.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of great representation in the animated stuff, and obviously the comics is what I have read the most and spent the most time with Deathstroke in. And there's a lot of cool story there too, with like his kids are like, integrated into the storylines and stuff as well, which is pretty cool. So,
and he had kids. That's a whole new side of Deathstroke I didn't know about.
Yeah.
There is a good like cinematic. I don't know if you've seen this. If you haven't somehow played Arkham Origins, I don't know how many of the Arkham games you've played. Arkham Origins is fantastic in my opinion. There's a nice little like cinematic fight of him and Batman in that one. And I just love like the mercenary style that he is, like you mentioned. Like he's fighting Batman and it's snowy and it's like just the whole thing is like really beautiful. Yeah. And then he's got his blade out and it gets shot out of his hand and he immediately looks exactly where the person is. It's dead shot, of course. But he like, I guess just by like, the way his blade was flung out of his hand, he knew exactly where he was like a mile away. He's cool, dude. He's cool.
He's awesome.
I want to see that on a big screen versus a live action Batman. I want to see it. I want to see it so bad.
Yeah, he's awesome. Even just his mask, the way it looks, like the half and half kind of. And then when he doesn't have the mask on, he has like the eye patch and stuff. He's really cool. He's a cool character. So yeah, easy pick for me. So
I love it.
Happy to bounce it back over to you.
Well, here I come. I wanted to save this guy for maybe the tail end of my Mount Rushmore to have like Doomsday as my top and this guy's my bottom and just like kind of that nice sandwich. But I was like, I want to take him now, that way I give him the love that he deserves. I feel like this guy. I want Eobard Thawne. I want Reverse Flash. I think the Reverse Flash, if you look into him and what he does, dude is like perhaps the most menacing villain I've ever heard of. Like I ever, sincerely. I was looking at different quotes and different things he's done. This is from the show The Flash on the CW, but they're kind of talking back and forth about like his motives or whatever. For his motives, at least in that storyline in that show, was he figured out how the Flash got his powers. He duplicates that and gives himself the powers. And then he's like, I'm gonna be the hero. I'm gonna be so great. And then like Flash steps in, kind of steals the show. That's it. That's all there is. It's so petty. So petty. He goes back in time and murders his mother. Like he murders the Flash's mother. But there's a quote in that. The Flash says, "Don't you have anything better to do than to destroy my life?" And Reverse Flash says, "Destroying you is my life." That's all he does, dude. He is hell-bent on destroying the Flash's life. And I think that's insane. He's very petty. Whatever. He had to be on this list for me because the Flash is one of my favorite superheroes ever. I love all of his powers. Obviously, he has all the Flash's powers, if not some more of his own with the negative Speed Force and stuff. He's just a menace. Honestly, my biggest con of Reverse Flash is just kind of stupid. I hate his suit. I can't stand the yellow and red versus like the red and yellow. I hate like the yellow. Yeah. I know it's supposed to be like a reverse. I get that.
The reverse. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
But like, give me Zoom's suit with the black and the blue lightning. That's, but.
Yeah. So I'm happy you mentioned Zoom then. I'm not trying to cut you off. If you have other thoughts, obviously we'll bounce back to it. Yep. But I think that's been my one big, gripe isn't really the right word, but my confusion, I guess, when it comes to some of the Flash villains is I honestly struggle sometimes to remember what, like, I feel like he has a few that are just like, oh, they're also really fast. Yes. And it's like, I kind of, like, Zoom, is it supposed to be the Reverse Flash? Is a whole different character entirely? Sometimes I get confused on what exactly who's who. So I don't know a ton about, like, Reverse Flash specifically, other than once you confirm that was the one that's wearing the yellow suit and stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, his name's literally Professor Zoom is his name, I think. But so it's like, you have Zoom, and then Eobard Thawne is also sometimes called Professor Zoom. It's very confusing.
Yeah. So I don't know who's who exactly sometimes, but it is, like you said, it's a fun, it's literally like, this is evil Flash that's, like you said, hell-bent on taking out the Flash, which is a cool way. If you are a Flash fan, that's awesome. So, yeah.
One thing I did learn today, and this is, again, like, whenever we talk about this, anytime we talk about a certain, like, story, whatever, obviously we're honing in on one exact story. There's thousands at this point, so many variations. In this universe, in the show, the Reverse Flash, he did try to kill Barry Allen because he hates him that much. And somehow he learned that if he killed Flash, he would never become the Reverse Flash. And he's like, well, I don't want to give that up. So, like, it's one of those fun things where, like, it's kind of like Joker versus Batman. Like, he can't kill him. He won't kill him. But, like, he hates him. So, he's going to do all this thing. But, yeah, real quick, touching on, like, it's definitely my biggest beef with the Flash is, in the show alone, there's Reverse Flash, Zoom, Savitar, Godspeed. There's like so many speedsters. And I'm like, can you not make it? And I know sometimes he's going up against the Thinker or whatever. Like I know some of Flash's villains aren't very great.
Thinker or the Stinker. That Will Ferrell SNL skit. The Thinker or the Stinker. Classic.
So all that to say, I love the Flash. I had to have the Reverse Flash on here. I think he's insane, very petty. That's where it goes, pal. Now time for your number 2.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I will go in a similar direction, I guess. You kind of took your one of at least your favorite heroes villain. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing. My favorite superhero ever always will be Green Lantern. I could gush for hours about the storylines and the complexity of some of the stuff that's been built with that character and with that just the Green Lantern Corps in general. And honestly, I kind of struggled a little bit. I wanted a Green Lantern villain represented here, and there's a couple routes I thought about going. Ultimately, I'm going to take the basic route and just say Sinestro as the main primary villain of Green Lantern, especially of Hal Jordan. And I just think with Sinestro, there's so much just like cool storyline stuff going on with him. It's kind of sad that we really haven't seen him represented all that well in like all these different medias. I feel like in the Justice League cartoon and stuff, he was around occasionally. He was kind of an afterthought. He was never felt like he was like this big villain that the Justice League was contending with. And I'm not a big fan of that like suit that he wore for a while that has like the blue and black. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite. I much prefer his just like yellow lantern look. But I think it's a cool story where he was like, a Green Lantern for years, partners with Abin Sur, who's, once he died, his ring went to Hal Jordan. So then Sinestro was kind of, you know, tasked with training Hal Jordan. I think that's kind of a cool thing, and then develops into the biggest villain. And just the whole concept of how all these different Lantern Corps were created and the different emotions on the spectrum that connect with each one of them, empower each one of them. Kind of all started with Sinestro branching off from the Green Lanterns, and I think the Sinestro Corps War is one of my all-time favorite stories that I've read in the comics. Jeff Johns, probably my all-time favorite writer. His whole run with Green Lantern is probably my favorite run ever, and that's why I love Green Lantern so much. Going from like Rebirth all the way through the New 52 DC stuff, which no one listening knows what I'm talking about right now, I guess. But anyway, Sinestro is awesome. The Sinestro Corps War stuff is phenomenal. I love how it's, you know, he feeds off of fear, and the yellow, obviously, as dumb as it kind of is in theory, is like the color that is the weakness of Green Lantern. I know there's a lot of jokes about like, oh, your weakness is a color. It's deeper than that.
Right.
It's more so it's fear that's, you know, represented in that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So I love that stuff. I thought about going with like Parallax himself, which is like the pure like spectral embodiment of fear that kind of takes over. He even took over Hal Jordan when he killed so many of the Green Lanterns. So Parallax I kind of went there, but then I just think the complexity of Sinestro, where he was a Green Lantern and he's like masterminded all this stuff, just puts him over the edge a little bit. The personal connection he has with Hal Jordan. And then the other one I have to give a quick shout out to, and I'm on talking about the Lanterns, is Larfleeze, the Orange Lantern. I love that guy so much. Powered by avarice or greed, if you will. He hasn't been around enough to do like enough meaningful storylines to where I felt like I wanted to put him on my actual Mount Rushmore, but he's hilarious and I love that character. I think it's a cool character design as well. So quick shout out to Larfleeze, but Sinestro, putting him here, and yeah, pretty happy with that one.
We love a good, like, the student and the mentor, and then one of them turns like evil. We love that storyline on this podcast. It's fantastic. I definitely like. I haven't read almost anything of the Green Lantern stories. I have read like synopsis of Blackest Night, which honestly I want to read like from beginning to end, because it's just it's seems crazy from what I've read. I love it, dude. Had I heard of Green Lantern / gotten into him whenever I was like younger, like I don't know what age exactly you started getting into him, he would be well up there for me as well. Like just how well everything is fleshed out in that universe, the emotions, like you said, like yellow countering green. No, it's what would be if you had to pick something that's the opposite of willpower. It's probably fear. Like so that's why they counteract, and I love like how I don't know what it's not indigo. What color is it? Just blue is hope? They just call it blue.
Yeah,
because there is indigo, right? Indigo's like
correct. It's more of a purpley kind of blue is indigo. Yeah.
But like how blue is hope, and when a hope lantern and a willpower lantern are like around, they kind of like boost each other up. I love that. Yeah. Because it's true. Yeah. Like I think it's how real life emotions work. I think it's really like well fleshed out, and I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. They get really clever with how they navigate some of those emotion stuff, and it's awesome. And you get to see so many different characters who embody these virtues, kind of take them on, and you know be these lanterns at different times. And it's just kind of cool to see. Mm-hmm. And Sinestro, going back to Sinestro, is cool. Like with the New 52 storylines that started at this point, it was a while back. It's some of the last. I haven't read new stuff in a while. But he was a Green Lantern again, which was really cool to see like Hal Jordan have to like accept that. And there's just a lot of things that are cool with how like the politics of the Lantern Corps and stuff work too.
Yeah.
And Sinestro's just you hate him, but also he's just like so smart and so just put together. Kind of, it's awesome. He's great.
I think it's great. Something you just said I was getting ready to say, and then I forgot. I don't know. I love it. I need to do more reading into it. It's a great pick to counterbalance or to represent rather your favorite hero. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thanks.
We're gonna stick with smart people, but also strong people. We're gonna give the villain that
love it.
for that reason. He represents both so well. I want Bane. I want the Luchador.
Yeah.
I want Bane. He is. I think sometimes Bane is especially is one of the characters who I feel like has been represented so differently across so many different mediums. Like obviously Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, like it's kind of different. He's got the smarts, and obviously he does like physically match up to Batman and stuff like it's fine. But you have some lines where like Bane's on the Venom and he's like 10 foot tall and he's like this monster. It's like it's kind of like all over the place. But we mentioned earlier we like Doomsday because he's just like a physical threat to a physical hero. Bane is, I looked it up earlier, he is considered to be an intellectual equal to Batman, to Bruce Wayne. Obviously, a hell of a lot stronger than Batman. Mm-hmm. So like I like that he's like at least as smart, and then he is definitely literally breaks his back. I love, like, even in The Dark Knight Rises, like there's so many quotes in that Bane alone. The sewage fight, Mr. Wayne, like him just, I know who you are, but I don't care. I don't care about your secret identity. He knew the whole movie. He didn't care. He's like, he had his motives. I don't know. I love a smart villain. I overall love a smart villain more than a brute. But with Bane, you get both. So I love it.
I agree. I love Bane. Tom Hardy's Bane has really risen in my appreciation for him since the movie came out. Mm-hmm. When it first came out, I don't know what it was. I was just like, oh, like that's not what he's supposed to look like or whatever. But then you kind of take a step back and realize, like, you know, this world that Christopher Nolan had built was a more kind of realistic world and stuff. Mm-hmm. It works, and I think that Bane works for that version of Gotham City and those Batman stories. And I, like you said, there's so many great line deliveries from that Bane. It's great in that movie. But I love Bane. I think like him literally breaking the bat is one of those like all-time classic comics like images that you can just like immediately picture in your mind of him breaking him over his knee. Great storyline, and the best villains have storylines like that really push your character to like evolve and do things that, you know, they're not always having to do like something different. And obviously Bane does that with Batman. Like he literally broke his back. Like you have to come back from that, and it gives Batman a challenge that we don't see that often of like, you were like unquestionably defeated there. Like he bested you. How are you going to recover, bounce back, all that stuff? And that's great. Those are my favorite type of Batman stories, when we get to see Batman push beyond his usual limits instead of just the usual I'm smarter than everybody, easy dub. So yeah, I love Bane. Great pick. I wondered if you might have him on there because I know you're quite fond of him as well.
I love too, a couple more things about Bane. I love like the luchador side of him. I love that like in all the fighting games and stuff, he's very like wrestler-y. I imagine you enjoy that as well.
Yeah.
I love how he's out there just like body slamming people and stuff. I think it's fun. I have to give a shout out again. I've tweeted this before. I think me and you literally talked about this the last time we talked like off air. And Bane is so good for it. It's in Arkham Origins, where at this point in the game, Joker and Bane are like the last two standing villains. So they're kind of like working together, trying to bring down Batman, whatever. It's one of the best like thought up positions to put Batman in. You just said about like, you know, you got to kind of adapt. You got to be in a good villain will put a character in a place where they've never been before. Joker and Bane. Joker has strapped himself to an electric chair. Bane is wearing a heart monitor. Every beat of his heart is charging the electric chair. So eventually it's going to reach full charge and it's going to kill Joker. Bane is attacking Batman. So Batman has to choose. Somebody's going to die, is how they describe it. Either he's going to kill Bane, that way Joker doesn't die. He's not, and then over enough time, Joker is going to die because Bane stays alive. Or he's going to die because he's going to let Bane kill him. Somebody's dying. You put the man who, like, his whole thing is he will never kill. You put him in that place, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a fantastic, like, problem to put him in. I love that so much.
Love triangle, yeah.
Love triangle.
Someone's dying.
It's great.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's cool to, and that's another thing about a lot of these villains, especially probably the Batman villains, seeing them interact with each other is often very satisfying.
Yeah.
Because they all have different motives, and obviously they're all anti-Batman, but often they don't always get along, or sometimes they do, sometimes for a while. And it's kind of cool to see those interactions, I think. So happy you brought that up.
Agreed. Well, that's I could gush about Bane for a little bit more, but we got to get moving. I want to hear your number 3.
All right, so my number 3, I feel like any DC villain Mount Rushmore, you almost have to dip into the Batman Rogues Gallery because it's just like the ultimate Rogues Gallery. And mine, it's not, obviously, like you said, the Joker is the Batman villain. Like, he just is. But my kind of personal favorite, and it's kind of a sillier pick, but always was my favorite growing up, is the Riddler. So I'm going to take the Riddler. I know it's kind of silly. I even just think back, like when I first think of the Riddler, I usually think of like the Batman animated series. Like he has like what do you call it? Like the bowler hat or whatever. I don't know what you call that.
Yeah.
Like rounded hat. Like the green. He's definitely sillier. He's not like, he's never the biggest threat. But I just think like riddles are kind of fun, and it's kind of fun for Batman to do these riddles. And I like how he's used in different things as well. Like all the Arkham games have like the little Riddler like side quest type or whatever you want to call them. I don't remember what they call them in the games. He's never, to my memory, like ever like the main thing you're worried about in any of those Arkham games. But he's always a presence with those little side things. And it's kind of fun how he's used that way. Obviously, in the most recent Matt Reeves Batman movie, he was the villain. That was it was kind of a different interpretation of the Riddler, more of a real world version. It was fine. Paul Dano was good in the role, I will say. But ultimately, too, if it's not the Batman animated series, probably the reason I love the Riddler the most is our GOAT, Jim Carrey, in Batman Forever. It is an off-the-wall performance. It was in 1995, so this is Jim Carrey fresh off of his 1994 year of Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber, which is insane. Insane year. Probably the best year of any actor ever, I would say. Insane. But then, so off of those 3 just wild roles, you jump into, one of the biggest movies that come out that year, Batman Forever. The movie's Joel Schumacher's direction. It's weird movie, kind of. It doesn't all hold up all that well, but I think it's a fun one. Tommy Lee Jones is normally a very serious actor. Him as Two-Face is working with Jim Carrey as the Riddler is just some of it works, some of it doesn't, but I love the energy Jim Carrey brought there, and it just kind of makes me, I've always loved that character. Green's always been kind of my favorite color, as you saw with Green Lantern as well, but ever since I was really little, I was kind of gravitated toward the Riddler, so it felt wrong not to include him here. And also, I don't know if I did this for the last one, but like I said, I wrote down the creators and the year. So 1948, the Riddler goes back to.
Wow.
Pretty far. The creators, Bill Finger and Dick Sprang, which is a all-time great name. Dick Sprang.
Sprang, like Sprang.
Yes.
Dick Sprang.
And Bill Finger being the other name is great
Bill
too. That's
Finger. The fact that they alone, each one's funny, but they came together, Finger and Sprang.
Oh, I had to mention that, but yeah.
Title of your sex tape: Finger and Sprang. Oh my god, that's fantastic. I haven't watched Batman Forever in probably almost 2 decades. It's been a long time, but I remember I've seen obviously clips here and there, once again of Carey's Riddler. He was just having fun. Mm-hmm. He was obviously just having fun. I love the over the top, spinning his cane around and doing it's just funny. Him blowing up the Bat Cave and stuff. He's tossing his little bombs or whatever. It's funny.
It's exactly what you would think of as should we cast Jim Carrey as the Riddler? And that's what you get. Yes. That's what they got. So, but it's great. It's a lot of fun.
I do think we've talked about this character is a brute equal or an intellectual equal. I think at times, obviously, because he's the hero, Batman ends up figuring out his riddles and stuff. Right. But most of the time, I would say Riddler could be smarter than Bruce. Yeah. He really could be. Mm-hmm. The way he toys with him a little bit in these games and stuff. But,
right.
So I like that about him.
Yeah. Cool. Well, back to you,
Bob. Love that so much. I want to say the one I have. I feel like I couldn't let both of these characters, him and the Joker, not be on my DC Mount Rushmore. I'm fine with letting Joker slide because I feel like he is the villain. Period. Mm-hmm. But this guy, I feel like, is the DC villain. I want Darkseid. I hate that we pretty much have not gotten Darkseid like at all in live action. He was a little bit.
Yeah.
He got like 2 minutes of screen time in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
And his presence kind of was there for the movie. Like,
Yeah.
you know it's Darkseid, which is, it helps a little bit, but yeah, you don't get to see a lot on screen.
Right. First off, I love anybody who has ever like pitted Thanos against him. I think like, and then they'll be like, well, Thanos has the stones. Well, then you're giving Darkseid anti-life, in which case he still wins. Like, I don't see a single scenario where Thanos is beating Darkseid. I don't.
Yeah.
Of course, he came before. He came before.
First.
I like that. Before and first. He came before Thanos, and they kind of ripped Thanos from Darkseid. They got like the same like wrinkly face, like the bald head, whatever. But Darkseid is just like, I think a lot of villains on here, maybe not Doomsday for me. A lot of villains have good motive. They have reasons for why they are the way they are. I think Darkseid is like the epitome of like, I'm just evil, bro. I just want to rule everything. I want to destroy everything. And that's just what I want. So I feel like having a character like that on the list is a must. Even though, like, again, I probably technically have that with Doomsday. But I like Darkseid. He's cool. And I hope we can eventually get to see a build-up like we saw to Thanos in the MCU. Maybe in this new James Gunn ran DC universe, we can build up to Darkseid. Or honestly, Steppenwolf was great in Zack Snyder's Justice League. If we were just doing the DC universe, which we could do at some point, Steppenwolf would be on my Mount Rushmore. Yeah. Steppenwolf was fantastic.
He was great.
But
yeah,
that's all I got to say about Darkseid. What do you got?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great pick. I think he is, like you said, like the Justice League villain that you want to talk about. Honestly, the only reason I was considering putting him on mine as well. The only reason I kind of didn't was I started thinking, like, I just don't know enough about him or his storylines, really. Like, I don't know that much other than just, like, stuff I've, independently read, online and stuff. But I think he's great. I love that he's just, like, the embodiment of evil, basically. That's just, like, this huge titan of a force that the whole team has to kind of band together and take out. It's your very stereotypical, like, how can the team overcome this type storyline? But it's, like, the greatest example of it. And I agree that I'm happy you brought up that Thanos is basically direct, like, oh, Marvel needs him, like, let's make this character. And honestly, I don't remember if we discussed this or not. Something we've definitely, like, in theory kind of talked about, but we need to do an episode where we just, like, line up, like, Marvel and DC have so many characters that are direct rip-offs of each other. Mostly, I will say, it's Marvel taking these characters that were established in DC, I feel like. There are a few that go the other way. But so many, even going back to my first pick, Deathstroke, like Slade Wilson, Deadpool is literally Wade Wilson.
It's insane.
The mercenary. And I know, like, I will give Marvel credit, like, they made Deadpool a character very different than what Deathstroke is.
Sure.
So that's not the worst defender at all. And they were kind of poking fun at them stealing stuff there, even by naming him the same thing there almost. But there are so many characters that are directly lifted, and off the top of my head, I want to say usually they're not quite as good when they lift them. There are probably a few that Marvel kind of took and made improvements to, but I think it'd be a fun episode to be like, here's two characters that are essentially the same. Which one are we picking? I think that'd kind of be a fun.
I like that.
We could kind of go through a whole bunch of them. But yeah, so that's just a very long way of saying that I like the pick, and yeah, Darkseid's great.
Cool, thanks. I'm gonna write down that idea because that's a great idea.
Write that down. All right, so it wouldn't be a Mount Rushmore draft for us if I didn't do something controversial with my last pick, a la taking the Headless Horseman. So you are within your right to throw the penalty flag on this one and say no, you can't. That doesn't
I'm
fly.
so excited to hear this.
It's kind of stupid, and at least I'll explain why I'm trying to do this, I guess. It's kind of stupid. But with my last pick, I am trying to play the Crime Syndicate of America, which is the parallel universe Justice League that is evil.
Yeah.
But I can't pick us like, so I have it written down like the team is Ultraman, which is Superman, evil Superman, Owlman, evil Batman, Superwoman, Wonder Woman, Johnny Quick, which is the Flash, and Power Ring, Green Lantern. I'm not taking any one of them individually, and like that's my Mount Rushmore. But I've always loved the Crime Syndicate. It's just something like, even as a kid, like my brain just loves when it's like, here's your team of heroes. What's the best thing they can fight? Literally evil version of themselves.
True.
I love that type of story. There's a cool animated movie that came out. I don't remember when it came out exactly. It's called like Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. Was kind of a fun representation of that story. I think it's also been done in like the animated show at some point. So I completely understand if you're like, no, you're not taking this team of 5 villains and putting them on your Mount Rushmore. But I wanted to try because of how much I love in theory, this is... Because, like I said, I'm not taking Ultraman and putting him on mine, because he's essentially just evil Superman.
Right.
I just love the concept of this is the evil Justice League that the Justice League now has to fight. And if I don't get to put Crime Syndicate of America on my Mount Rushmore, it's going to be Doomsday, and we'll have that one overlap, which is fine with me too. He was my other one that I wanted there, but I at least wanted to give a shout out to the Crime Syndicate because, like I said, I just love that type of story.
I somehow have never heard of them until just now. I had to look.
And they're kind of like Owlman is kind of cool. Like he's like the Batman of like, I don't know. They're all kind of just a little. They have like little things that are a little different about like their character and stuff about like their parallel universe heroes, but they're kind of fun and kind of cool.
If you look up like just regular Crime Syndicate, like not necessarily of America, they've got like a cyborg. They've got like maybe it looks like a Martian Manhunter alt.
I think it's one of those things where it's like usually the team is that you're going to see is probably the same team at whoever's in the Justice League at that time. Right. That's who they're going to put in the storyline. I think like when I wrote down, it's just like the original one was that one. And that's what I remember the team being in the Crisis on Two Earths one. There might have been someone else even in that one as well. I don't remember in that animated movie who all was represented, but and I don't know if they're always called of America or not.
Yeah, apparently not.
But the Crime Syndicate.
Yeah. The Crime Syndicate. I'm honestly, for how fun it is, I'm absolutely fine with it. I think it's hilarious. Apparently it came out in '64, dude. Like they've been around.
Yeah, been around for a while. Yeah.
I want to read some of this now because I agree. Like kind of like with the Reverse Flash, like who you gonna fight? Yourself, but evil. Like it's fun. Yeah. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. And it's also a fun way you get to see the heroes, like, typically how it works out is like, oh, like, they're getting beat up by their own, like, parallel version of themselves, so what do? Let's all switch.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I might be able to take out Power Ring, whereas he was kind of, he had Green Lantern bested, but the Flash might be able to take him out.
Right.
But then Green Lantern can go take out Owlman. Like, it's kind of cool how, like, they can trade off, and, like, there's a lot of fun they can have with it. And it's like, individually, none of them are going to be like these all-time great characters, but as a unit, like that's when you think of them like that's the threat because it is the Justice League but evil.
Right. I love it, honestly. Yeah. I think it's great. I need to look. I need to look into this. I need to find this movie you're talking about because it looks fun.
It's a cool little. I feel like honestly, a lot of those like DC animated movies they made are pretty solid. Like at least good enough to watch. Like if they're not spectacular. And I remember that one being pretty good. I had it on DVD like when I was young, and I remember watching it a few times, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, would recommend.
I need to check it out. I need to check that out. Obviously, Blackest Night, like I said, I need to rewatch just because I love it so much. Justice League Doom. I love that so much.
Yes, that's a good one too.
I love.
We watched that one together, I think.
Yeah, we did. I don't need to sleep. I love like, and that's what we talked about it a little bit ago. Like we just like DC better than Marvel. I'm sure somewhere someone could find me some comic book line similar to Justice League Doom.
Yeah.
I don't know it. I know Justice League Doom. The Justice League's under attack. By who? By me. Fantastic. Fantastic. I love that line. Like it's just it's a cool concept. It's a great premise and they act it out really well, I think. Mm-hmm. I love it. I'm definitely going to be checking out the Crime Syndicate of America. That sounds fun.
Good. We'd love to hear it. Big Power Ring fan coming up, I'm sure.
Yeah. Johnny Quick. Wow. I do have, I'll list the guy that I teased earlier as like one of my alternates. Do you have an alternate that you would like to give some love to? Or did you kind of just like, you got your list and you're happy with it?
That was basically my list. Doomsday was the other. Like I was fully prepared to you to be like, no, you're not doing that, and I was gonna put Doomsday on mine because he is like right there for it. If you ask me tomorrow, I might put him on my list. Right. I like him that much, and I also did have Darkseid very high up as a contender. So there's and then I already mentioned the couple alternates that I kind of talked about when you get into the Green Lantern universe stuff.
Right.
So that's kind of the ones that I specifically wanted to talk about.
Okay. I'll give some love to the villain who's the newest on my favorite villains list. I need to read more up into him. The Music Meister.
Fantastic.
And if you've never heard of him, I hadn't either until about 2 months ago. Who was he played by in that? Neil Patrick Harris, right?
Neil Patrick Harris,
which I didn't know. You
fantastic.
told me he's on Broadway. He's got a great voice, a fantastic voice, honestly. Mm-hmm. The Music Meister can sing, and when he sings, he hypnotizes people. And that's fantastic. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So but dude, even in that, I don't even know what it's from the TV show, like the Batman and what's it called? The Adventures of Batman.
I think it's Brave and the Bold.
Brave and the Bold.
I think it's Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, it's from something
which is I think a more I didn't really watch much of that. I think it's geared a little younger than even the Justice League which not that the Justice League cartoon wasn't geared pretty young, but it feels a little more mature. I've been wanting to rewatch the Justice League cartoon from start to finish for a while. Yeah. I need to start that. Maybe 2025 will be the year I do that.
Sounds good.
But Brave and the Bold just felt a little more like, oh, that's for kids, even when I was young.
Right.
Yeah, that clip you sent me is great. Honestly, if you haven't listened to the Music Meister's little segment of the Brave and the Bold, stop this video right now, go watch it, then come back to us. Or honestly, we won't even hold it against you if you don't come back to us, because we're going to be wrapping up here. Just go watch that. It'll be the best thing you watch today, or second best thing, I guess, because you've now completed this episode.
No. Yeah. I promise I will not be surprised if that song ends up on my Spotify like most played songs. I promise it will. Like his little
it's fun. It's fun.
Neil Patrick Harris kills it. He's got a great voice. The premise is fun. The whole thing is funny too. It's great. He's hypnotizing all these villains and heroes to fight Batman while he's singing the entire time. It's great. It's just fun.
Yeah, it is great. We both love good songs like that. The character that can bring it to song. It's fun. It makes the character just, I don't know. Fun's the best word I can really think of, but it's great. The clip is fantastic. I have not listened. It will not be on my Spotify Wrapped, but I respect that it will be on yours.
His glasses are like music notes. I love it. It's fun.
I think that literally might be his only ever appearance in any medium. Maybe he'll spring up in a live action.
The Music Meister.
Matt Reeves' next Batman movie.
It is Neil Patrick Harris.
Music Meister.
I'd watch it.
Honestly, I'd be here for it. Yeah, I'd be here for it.
Well, that to say, I'm sorry we don't have a but more. If we had more time, we could sit down and think of some villains that are just absolutely stupid.
Yeah, definitely. But maybe next time we'll do a whole but more episode.
A whole but more. But pal, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching. We love y'all. Tune in hopefully next week for whatever probably a total 180 on whatever this was.
Probably so.
Peace.
All right. Well, see you later.